So what are the 4 personality types? They've been around a long time, and there's hundreds of tests that are out there that I'm sure you've taken many, I've taken many over my life. Today, we're going to introduce you to our assessment, the 4 lenses, and help you to begin your journey to understand how to increase your effectiveness in your relationships and increase the results that you're getting in your life. So we know it's been around for a long time. So let's talk about it, how it pertains to us today. What we know is that emotional intelligence is a critical competency needed in humans today. To be successful in my home, to be successful at work. The idea of emotional intelligence, it's been around a long time also, but it just seems like it's never really been given the attention that it needs to. And today more than ever, boy, do we need to learn how to be more emotionally intelligent. People ask me, so define emotional intelligence. What is it anyway? And there's some textbook definitions out there, but I've really simplified this definition down to this key words and phrases. And that is this: are you even aware of how you show up and the impact that you're having positively or negatively on those that you're interacting with? So that's really the simplest form that I can tell you is that emotional intelligence is, are you even aware of how you're impacting people in their lives? So today we're going to talk about how does that play out? How do we become aware of how we can impact people? How do we become aware of the temperaments that have been around for so long and make them real in our lives today? So let's talk about now, what is your personality? How does it get identified? Well, we've developed through the process of using Keirsey's work to be able to identify our 4 personality types. They are blue, green, orange, and gold. We won't have time to go into depth about those 4 personality types today, but to learn more, you can go here and click on our video that can explain in a lot more detail what the 4 lenses are and how you can align to those. So let me just start with just a real quick history review. There's way more information out there than I can share in these few minutes, but let me just tell you how long it's been around. And we talked about 15,000 years. And the Egyptians actually called it water, earth, air, and fire. Sun and fire. So they categorized individuals and people around those 4 areas. Hippocrates, he got a little obnoxious about it, I think, because it's kind of, if you listen to his words, Melancolic, Choleric, Phlegmatic, and Sanguin. Those are his 4. And so he used bodily fluids to really determine what your personality or temperament is. Other folks, Jung it's been around a long time. Meyers, Briggs used Jung as part of their development. And Jung really came out with this idea of the feeler, the sensor, the thinker, and the intuiter. One of the modern day psychologists, David Keirsey, wrote a book called Please Understand Me. And it's through that book and his 4 temperaments that we have designed and developed what we refer to as the 4 lenses. So Keirsey took and simplified this idea that Myers-Briggs has 16 personality types. And in fact, most people don't even really remember what they were from a Myers-Briggs perspective. I do this all the time in my classes. I'll ask people to raise their hand. How many of you have taken a Myers-Briggs? And just about everybody raises their hand. I say, how many of you remember what your letter designations were? And most can't. Because at the time, it was a great resource, but they'd never really utilized it. In fact, I had one class where a guy said, I think I was an ESPN. And I realized at that point in time, he didn't know what the heck he was talking about. So we've talked about the history, we've talked about Myers-Briggs, we've talked about these other instruments. Let me just introduce you to 4 lenses and the power behind our process. Within the 4 lenses, there are actually 4 temperaments. This is our test. And as you take the test, there's certain processes that we'll take you through. But ultimately, in the end, let me just read to you in simplified terms what each of these temperaments represent. So the blue temperament, or as David Keirsey would identify it, the NF, is caring, humane, artistic, spiritual, subjective, sensitive, peaceful, sincere, and empathic. They're the romantic group of folks. The opposite of the blue, the NF, is the NT in Keirsey's terms, the intuitive thinker. They're about science, they're curious, they're complex, they're independent, they're fact-oriented, they're cool, calm, collected, and they're, at the very end, it kind of sums it up, they're highly competent. The orange temperament, is a temperament where they're bold, they're entrepreneurs, they're generous, they're witty, they're spontaneous, they're enthusiastic, they're optimistic, they're charming. They're courageous, independent, fearless, adaptable, and easygoing. The gold temperament, they're punctual, they're practical, they're sensible, they're organized, they're stable, they're conservative, they're detailed, and they're hardworking. Those are some general observations of each of these different temperaments. So as you begin to learn and understand this science, begin to apply it in your life using something like the 4 lenses, or even any other instruments that are out there, your journey is going to be that of learning and understanding how you work and how you can work with others. Remember, we talked about emotional intelligence, and that's the ability that I have to be self-aware and know how I'm showing up and the impact that I'm having on other humans around me. So that's the big question that you need to ask yourself as you're now going through your life at home or at work, is are you even aware of how you're showing up? So as we've talked about this history and theory, now we've settled on this idea of 4 lenses. If you click down below, you can take a free 4 lenses assessment and be able to understand and begin your journey of how to begin to improve relationships in your life. So as you now consider this idea of 4 lenses, please join us on our journey of putting the human back into humanity.